Hey guys, Ronen here. A really cool video that we're doing today. We're going to be taking two drivers. One of them is an owner-operator in our fleet, and he's currently driving a 2014 Volvo 670. It is a heavy spec truck. It's an 18-speed, 515 horsepower D13, and we're going to be comparing it to a 2021 Volvo 760. They're the newer models of the 670s. It does have a turbo compound with upgraded fuel rails and injectors, and it's running at 455 horsepower, and it's also a D13. The whole point of this video is to analyze the data and see whether or not it's time for the owner-operator with a 2014 Volvo, whether or not it's time for him to upgrade his truck, and is it even worth it for him to upgrade his truck? So let's get into some of the comments that you guys left last time. So a lot of comments about the lease payment versus fuel savings. So whenever I talk about lease payments and the fuel savings, I get a lot of pushback from the audience that the fuel savings doesn't outweigh the lease payment. So what we're gonna be going a little bit deeper today into the analytics to see how much money are they actually saving. The guy that's driving the 2021 Volvo, how much money is he actually saving versus the driver that's driving the 2014 Volvo? And does the saving outweigh the lease payment? So after I show you all the data and all the stats, you're gonna decide, or with your comments, you'll decide whether it's time for the driver to upgrade his truck or whether he should stay in his older truck. So let's get into it. So we have a driver here with a unit number 219. In the month of June 1st to June 30th, 2021, so this is really recent data, the driver drove 12,760 miles. Okay, so 12,760 miles, and the driver is getting, in the month of June, got a 5.9 miles per gallon. So again, driving 12,760 miles, driving at 5.9 miles per gallon, the driver spent $9,204 on fuel. So mind you, that's Canadian. In order to get the US amount, you would need to divide that by 1.25. So the driver spent $9,200 on fuel in the month of June. Now, if we take the driver that's driving a 2021 Volvo who drove the exact same mileage, so let's take a driver, so here we go. So we have unit 371, and that's a 2021 Volvo. The driver drove 12,657 miles, so almost identical to the 12,700 miles. He drove 8.3 miles per gallon. So this driver spent $6,474 on fuel. So the difference between driver number one and driver number two, if we subtract 9,204 and we take away $6,474, the difference between the two drivers is $2,730 just for the month of June. Okay, so when we compare driver number one and driver number two, the driver driving the older Volvo spent $2,730 more on fuel than the driver that's driving the 2021. So does that equate to a lease payment? I don't know. We'll get into the analytics later in the video. I'm going to be talking about if the driver was to sell his truck, what would the actual payments be on his new truck? So let's take one more month. So let's take the month of May. So we're going to compare the driver with the 2014 Volvo in the month of May traveled 13,838 miles. 13,838 miles, and he drove at 5.6 miles per gallon. The driver spent on fuel $10,494 on fuel. And if we're going to compare him to a 2021 Volvo, so here we go. So unit 362 is a 2021 Volvo. The driver drove 13,731, so identical mileage they drove. This driver drove at 8.2 miles per gallon and spent $7,080 on fuel. So in the month of May, the driver with the 2014 Volvo spent $3,414 more on fuel than the driver with the 2021. Again, both drivers are in our van reefer division driving Midwest USA and Southeast USA runs. I cannot get the data with the exact same loads for the entire month with the exact same destinations. I do know regions, so a driver drives to the Midwest USA and Southeast USA. Both drivers do the same work, and it's fairly the same customers that are in our trailers. So again, $3,414 is a significant amount to spend extra every single month on your fuel. So again, what would my recommendation be? I actually think that it'd be wiser for the driver with a 2014 model that he take his truck and he was to sell it. So today's market value for a 2014 with 800,000 or 900,000 miles is probably around $35,000. So if he took that $35,000 and bought himself a 1-year-old truck, I'll actually take the stats right now with you and show you what his monthly payment would be if he was to buy a newer truck. All right, so if he got out of his 2014 unit and bought himself a 1-year-old truck, it would probably cost him about $135,000 would be today's market value on a year or a year and a half old truck with 200,000 kilometers on it. That truck would cost him $135,000. If he was to sell his truck for $35,000, he would have to finance $100,000. So let's see what $100,000 would cost him over the next 48 months and an interest rate of, I would say, 8. And I am taking a higher side interest rate. 8% interest for trucks is on the higher side. I really think that with good credit, you should be able to get it down to about 6 or 6.5. But even if we take $100,000 and we break it over 48 months at 8%, the driver's still paying $2,441 per month. So again, with both our examples, the savings that the driver would get outweigh the lease payment. So you are getting into a newer truck. You are going to be driving a 2021 Volvo over a 2014 Volvo, doing the exact same work, but spending about $3,500. On one example, we spent $3,400 less. And on the other example, we spent just about $2,600 in fuel savings per month. So what would you do in this situation? I mean, would you tell the driver to upgrade his truck? Do you think it's a good idea? Or should he stick to his older truck, the 2014 Volvo, and continue to get the 5.8 and 6.1 miles per gallon? Again, the newer trucks, they run at about 8.5, 8.4. The two examples that I showed you, drivers drove at 8.5 and 8.2 miles per gallon. So what do you guys think? Should he upgrade his truck? Does the lease of $2,400 outweigh the savings that he's gonna do, or should he continue spending money on fuel, keep his old truck where he doesn't have a payment? All right, guys, now you have the facts. So I want you to put yourself in my shoes. What do? Do you bring the driver in? Do you talk to him? Do you let him know what his options are? Number 2, do you ignore the situation completely and not even pay attention to it? Or do you push the driver to get a new truck and show him all these stats and show him that he can be saving about $2,500 to $3,500 a month? Please also take into consideration that when upgrading your truck, the value of the new truck is much greater than the value of his old truck, so he does have an asset that's worth a lot more. And also keep in mind the comfort. The 2021s are a lot more comfortable than the 2014 Volvos. So put yourself in my shoes. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna tell the driver, or would you push him to buy a new truck, or do you just keep him the way that he is? Let me know in the comments what you would do.